an editorial cartoon by David Horsey that appeared in the Los Angeles Times about Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary. David HorseyLA Times Since his political commentary was published in the Los Angeles Times on Wednesday. David Horsey says he has heard from a number of angry people. They have chastised Mr. Horsey, a two-time winner of the Pulitzer Prize for editorial cartooning, mostly for describing President Trump's press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, as a slightly chunky soccer mom in the Times. And on Saturday, he heard from another critic he acknowledged had a particular right to be offended: Ms. Sanders' mother. She was mad, Mr. Horsey said in a telephone interview on Saturday night. But she was good about it, he added. It wasn't anything like the really nasty stuff. He said he replied to her email and told her, "I know I was wrong, and I sincerely apologize." Mr. Horsey sent his individualized note of regret a day after issuing a much broader mea culpa that the Times affixed to the top of his commentary. Mr. Horsey had opened by writing that Ms. Sanders does not look like the kind of woman Donald Trump would choose as his chief spokesperson. He went on to say that the president has generally exhibited a preference for sleek beauties with long legs and stiletto heels to represent his interests and act as his arm candy. He continued, Trump's daughter Ivanka and wife Melania are the apotheosis of this type. By comparison, Sanders looks more like a slightly chunky soccer mom who organizes snacks for the kids' games. Many people, including some reporters, were quick to lay into Mr. Horsey. Several called the columnist and accused him of body shaming. Others responded by attacking Mr. Horsey's own appearance. Find me anything written about Sean Spicer, Josh Wellness or Jay Carney that begins with 2 paragraphs about his appearance and body shape. pic.twitter.com 5J15U8NFB, Steve Riley @ Steva Riley November 3, 2017. The Times added a note at the top of the column with Mr. Horsey's apology, which said the description was insensitive and failed to meet the standards of our newspaper. Almost all of the first 2 paragraphs of the column were removed and a "for the record" was added, reiterating that the language was not up to the Times standards. An email to the White House press office and to Ms. Sanders seeking comment on Saturday night was not returned. Mr. Horsey has been drawing political cartoons and accompanying them with short commentary at the Times since 2012. His top-of-the-ticket feature is syndicated and appears 3 times a week. Mr. Horsey said that because of timing, his story had been edited only by the newsroom's copy desk. That workflow is something that's clearly going to be assessed, he said. Asked if he had been disciplined, Mr. Horsey said, "Not that I know of," adding, "Obviously there's a lot of concern." A spokeswoman for the Times did not respond to an email seeking comment late on Saturday. It was not clear who exactly oversees Mr. Horsey. In emails, top Times editors said he did not report to and was not edited by the newspaper's national desk or Washington bureau. The editors also said he did not report to Juliet Lapidos, the editor of the Opt page and the Sunday Opinion section. That desk does not edit him either, they said. Mr. Horsey said he became aware of the criticism of his story when a colleague called his attention to an article on the right-wing site Breitbart News and when Ms. Lapidos called him. Mr. Horsey said the offending paragraphs had been his attempt to find a light way to ease into the broader topic of the commentary, which he said was about Ms. Sanders' truthfulness. "SHE's a mom," he said. "SHE's someone you can kind of identify with. That's what I had in my head," he continued. "When I read over how I wrote it, it can be taken as a much nastier shot, and believe it or not, I didn't mean it that way. The paragraphs looking back were incredibly foolish and obtuse. I just failed to see how those words were going to be received." Still, he said he believed the response to his column was so beyond the offense that it felt to him like an attack from the outrage machine. In addition to comments about his own physical attributes, critics attacked his daughter, wife and mother, he said. Mr. Horsey noted that his daughter is a very progressive young woman. He said she told him, "Dad, you screwed up," and I had to say, "You're right. Absolutely.